So Denver, yes, you Denver. This is a very interesting tax to lower the brackets for so much. It's almost like you're making the poor more poor with this tax. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to disclose my pay stubs while I was working as a junior engineer in the renewable energy industry to you. Now, I think there's a huge misconception that engineers make a lot more than the rest of the world. And that is true and not so true. True, yes, compared to the average, maybe world global rate, engineers are up there in terms of salary, but in terms of wealth, you're always going to be comfortable as an engineer, but you're not going to be rich. And hopefully this helps you break down what it means to make a salary as a corporate worker or an engineer. Just letting you know, I believe that our salaries, if you're comfortable with it in future, should be shared online on a regular basis, just because it really helps educate and help people understand what they're putting their feet into and a reality and a real expectation on what things could look like, all right? So I think coming out of college in the United States, there's not really much financial education. Many young people come out of college with these unrealistic expectations on how much you should make. You make very different types of money depending on different fields that you go into in the United States. So I can't compare myself to someone in tech because I'm not a software engineer. But renewable energy is pretty comparable to other energy industries like oil and gas, for example. Actually, a lot of oil and gas engineers land up coming to more renewable energy consulting firms. I can't compare myself because I don't know how to biomedical fields because that's a different field. So it's not just what kind of engineer you are. For the record, my firm previously had electrical engineers, mechanical, environmental, chemical, civil, all kinds of engineers, all right? So it's not really that kind of field of engineer, it's more what field you work in afterwards. That's a big one that people don't talk about. And number two, if you haven't watched my video yet, go check it out. And I break it down in calculators, what the cost of living is in your area. It is required for California to pay the corporate workers a little bit more because of how freaking expensive it is to live in California, all right? So I cannot compare my salary to someone living in San Francisco because they, by law, have to make more to survive in that area. So some caveats. I live in Westminster, Colorado. In comparison to a lot of the large cities and other states, it's not a very expensive area to be in. And so I don't earn that much because I physically do not need to. This paycheck also excludes benefits, including stocks, 401k matching, and bonuses. If you don't know yet, that is a huge thing in the engineering industry, and I think in other corporate industries too. Additional pay does make up for a big package, and that's why people sometimes look at base salary and they kind of ignore it for a bit because they know additional pay is big. I don't have a pay stub for additional pay because quite frankly, you don't really get a pay stub for additional pay unless the time frame comes. I actually left pretty early this year, and so I don't have a pay stub for you to show, but it's a pretty decent amount. Third is this video is not typical and should not be used as a comparison for what other engineers make, as my rant had just stated. And fourthly, I worked in the renewable energy consulting field with a lot of other engineers, so keep that in mind as you look into my pay stub. All right, so my base salary was $83K as a junior engineer. I only had like 13 months of experience. My gross pay per pay periods, there's 24 pay periods in a year, or 2 pay checks that you'll receive every month. My gross pay for every pay period was $3,458.33. There's something called a federal taxable wage versus gross pay. Federal taxable wage is literally how much after all your contributions like 401k, HSA, insurance, how much are you going to be taxed on? And your gross pay is how much is given to you first beginning off before all your contributions. So my gross income or my gross pay was $3,458.33. My federal taxable wage after my deductions and contributions was $3,190.29. Let's quickly look at my contributions. So these are called voluntary deductions in a paycheck. I had 401k contributions. I contributed 4% of my gross paycheck every single month, and that was because of matching purposes. I contributed that, and it was $138.33 per paycheck. There's insurance, which is $29.71. Then there's a health savings account, which if you haven't opened one yet, do consider that, because it is a pre-savings account where you can contribute to without being taxed on for future health related issues if you have to pay out of pocket for that. And that is $100. I contribute $100 every single pay period for HSA. Now we're going to look at statutory deductions, which is kind of the interesting part of this video. For the purpose of your knowledge, my federal income per pay period was $226. That's actually kind of lower than what I actually had to pay afterwards, because my husband and I did not report each other's income, and at the end of the year we then had to owe extra to the federal government, about $3,000 each, so about $6,000 for a household. Also, there's a lot of ways, interesting enough, that you can lower the marginal tax rate that is in your tax bracket. Let's say for us, filing jointly was 22%. There's a lot of ways that you can lower that through different sources of credit. One of it is that we had different assets, and also we gave to charity every once in a while, and so this can be lowered. Social Security is a very, very interesting one. Generally speaking, Social Security is going to be 6.2% of your gross taxable income. It's kind of interesting because there's a limit of Social Security taxable income, and the 2023 limit is $160,200. What that means is if you make anything $160,200 equal to that or less, you're going to be paying at least 6.2%. That's kind of interesting because I think Social Security is what I've come across to as one of the most aggressive regressional taxes. Regression taxes are taxes that really, really impact people in a lower tax bracket. This is specifically designed to tax middle lower class. And it's kind of interesting because the middle lower class is going to be using the Social Security benefits afterwards. From what I've heard, and you guys can tell me, you can't really live off of Social Security benefits, but you're getting taxed quite a bit every single paycheck for it.
I don't know how I feel about this law. I think it's slightly outdated, but for right now, it's still a law that we have to deal with in the United States.
Then there's Medicare. Medicare is also generally 1.45% of your taxable income. There is no wage-based limit for Medicare. It just exists. And my Medicare amount was $48.26. State income taxes. So this is obviously very different state to state. Colorado imposes a 4.4% marginal tax deduction. I think that's a flat rate. There's no brackets, unlike the federal tax. And I think California is the one that has different brackets depending on where you fall into. It's pretty standard. There is different credits and contributions and deductions that you can play around with at the end of the year when you report your taxes. So often you're getting a nice sum of this back, and you're looking at maybe an effective tax rate of maybe like 3.5. And so my Colorado tax was around $123.87. The Colorado paid family, also uniquely Colorado, it's up to $4.50 for every $1,000 of wages that is withheld. It's fairly new for 2023, but the money reportedly is going to go to a family and medical leave insurance program for the state, which the state then plans to launch in 2024.
I don't really know too much about this, as you can tell.
And then lastly, my favorite is an occupational privilege tax. Also fairly new. This is a local tax, so the taxes, as you can tell right now, the statutory deductions are 3 brackets: your federal, your state, and your local. Because I was working in Denver, they inflicted an occupational privilege tax on me. The Denver local tax, which I was very much unaware of because I had 2 hardworking immigrant parents who raised me, and so I didn't realize I had privilege that it wasn't tapped into Denver. Thanks for reminding me. This is around $5.75 a month, which is not very much compared to maybe the salary that I'm making and people who are making more than me. But it's funny because this tax is placed on individuals who earn more than $500 or $500 per month. Now think about this. If you're earning $500, 500 bucks in downtown Denver, which the hovering estimated rent is like what, $1,600, and you're taxing people for making only $500 in downtown Denver, you're pretty desperate. $5.75 is like 3 loaves of bread. It is just over 1% if you're someone who's making only $500 in Denver. And you have to pay other taxes, and you have to try live. Enough of my rants. My base salary take home is approximately $2,565.05. If you have to multiply that by 24 or 24 pay periods, you get $61,561.20 after my contributions and taxes. And that is exactly 74% of what my base salary gross pay was. If you're international, welcome to America. There's a lot of taxes, but there's taxes everywhere. I still believe in America. I think this is a great country. I just think that some of the tax laws are quite interesting and funny for that matter. If you're new here, welcome, and I hope this was helpful. Take care.